I think I was wrong about Paly Hollywood. Yes, Paly, the thrashed punk luxury designer clothing brand co-founded by James Franco, the disgraced former A-list actor. Now, in my video about Paly, I said that James Franco was trying to overtake Enfant Riche de Prime and Chrome Hearts with the launch of this brand. And listen, there are reasons why I said that. The aesthetic of the brand, the designs, the treatments, the materials, all of them are tailor-made to perfectly slot into an ERD lover's closet. And you can tell they put tons of work into this stuff. It's beautiful, beautiful, perfect Japanese paper-thin cotton for the t-shirts. Heavy yet supple terry cloth for the hoodies. All of it just treated to perfection, whether it's like enzyme washing, literal sun fading. Like, I have talked to the co-founder of this brand, and he was telling me how he's like, oh, I'm late sending these hats out because I have to leave them out in the sun for a few more days because it rained recently, so I need to make sure it gets enough time in the sun. Literally, this is more thought than most brands are putting into these designs these days. So why am I saying I was wrong? Well, I no longer think that Paly is trying to dethrone Enfant Riche de Prime. Instead, I think they are trying to undercut them. Let me explain what I mean. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at two Paly pieces from their new season. We have the Seventh Veil t-shirt and the Tear Me Up distressed canvas jacket. Really cool pieces, and I'm so excited to show you the details. But here's the deal. This t-shirt right here costs $315. It is treated just like an ERD shirt. It is thrashed with little holes and tears, just like an older ERD shirt. It's got a nice boxy fit, a little bit more cropped than ERD, but definitely a similar-ish fit, made in the USA, beautiful paper-thin cotton, and the ERD version of this would be $700. Now, what about the Tear Me Up canvas jacket? This one is similar to the Italian romance jacket that ERD put out last year, one of the recent grails from the brand, one of my personal favorites. Now, the Italian romance jacket from ERD costs $2,700, and now it's mostly sold out and people are trying to resell it for even more. The Tear Me Up jacket from Paly, $800 retail. Now, you might be saying, okay, Paly, they're cheaper than Enfant Riche de Prime. What's the big deal? Brands priced differently. Well, here's the thing. Paly has been exploding. They've been recently seen on Billie Eilish, way more. So they're getting, I'd say, more celebrity buzz than ERD at this point. And just in the past few months, Paly has added a massive amount of huge boutiques that are now stocking their stuff. For instance, they're now stocked at Essence. They're at Antonioli, and maybe most importantly, and the thing that points most directly what I'm talking about here, they are now at Dover Street Market. Now, like 6 months ago, I went to Dover Street Market and I went into their like t-shirt space, which is down in the basement. And when I went 6 months ago, what they had were like $70 like band merch t-shirts. Like, you could get a $70 Rammstein t-shirt in this t-shirt space. But now that space is filled with Paly t-shirts. So here's what I think is happening. I think Paly is looking at the market that ERD has essentially created, and they're saying, we can get more places than ERD due to our connections through James Franco, and also just the fact that we're making good clothes. We can charge less for it, so suddenly onboard people into our brand, and finally just explode it everywhere, be available in even more places than ERD, and be more accessible. Now, this is a double-edged sword, right? Because being cheaper is great. Being accessible is awesome. I love both of these things, but Enfant Riche de Prime have become so successful due to this mystique. They are upscale, exclusive, nihilist couture. Paly is heading in the complete opposite direction of that. And when you do that, you run the risk of getting played out, oversaturated, or just plain overprinting. You know, if you look at a lot of the other hype brands of the past few years, like Rude or Amiri, they exploded too big, too fast, and they created too many pieces so that the brand identity got too watered down. Now, is that what's happening with Paly, or will they be able to thread the needle and undercut ERD and become the biggest punk thrashed fashion brand? I think we've got to take a look at these two pieces to find out. All right, so we've got two pieces here. The centerpiece is definitely the canvas jacket. So let's start with the t-shirt, because this is how I first got introduced to Paly. So I think it makes sense to revisit here. And one thing that they're doing now is with the bags, they're including these little handwritten pieces, I'm guessing from Franco, because that's a big thing with the brand, is making sure it's a lot of like hand done stuff by James Franco. What do we got up here? 1-800-555-STAR. I love it. We're talking about Sunset Boulevard here. The refuse collects. Shit, just let it go. No need to play that game. No mo. Had to do mo, right? Anyway, you get the brand name down here at the bottom. All right, let's get this opened and hung up. Now that is a cool t-shirt, but first things first, in my first video about Paly, I kind of called them out for some things that were maybe like too similar to Enfant Riche de Prime. So let's see if any of those things have changed. So first we've got the retail tags, which by the way are really cool. They are a matchbook. I think that's a really nice touch. And this remains. I have to assume they must have made a ton of these. They probably have enough of these matchbooks for life, so they're going to keep using them. But this is basically like the same outline text as the ERD retail tags. So that is still sussy. The herringbone neck tags right here are also really similar to early ERD, but that's really not how ERD does it now, so I think it's forgivable. I also really like the embroidered logo in here. That's really sick. And finally, the care tags share like a passing resemblance to ERD, like this on the back is fairly similar to what ERD puts on theirs, but honestly, they're doing their own thing at this point with the care tags. I like this little gray size tag here, woven, that's nice. The Paly at the front, and then you get an extra tag with the little rose embroidered in there, peace and love, size, and fuck the rest. A lot of size tags on here for some reason. Who knows why? So I think they've differentiated themselves from ERD in some of the details, but some of it is still like a little bit you know, shaking the hand there. Iffy. But let's check out the details here, because this shirt's looking really, really cool. The treatment is insane. Like this, it looks like it's probably been legitimately left out in the sun because it's specifically faded over the shoulders. It's a really nice fabric, like paper thin, old school ERD style, super, super enzyme washed. Like they put care into these treatments. Let's take a look at this print here and take a look at just this motif in general, because this is the Seventh Veil t-shirt, and that's like cracking, but not too much. It's still pretty visible, but then they've like done a heavy print for the woman right here, because this is just like super, super cracked and vintage. I have to give them credit. It doesn't feel like fake vintage. It feels like legit a real vintage shirt. Like whatever treatments they're doing feel very authentic. And then finally, they've got a big tag sewn in at the side here featuring homemade Armenian cuisine, belly dancers, flamenco, and then the Seventh Veil on Sunset Boulevard. That's cool. I like that. Like aesthetically, of course it fits, but this is so vintage. And then clearly after they did all of the shirt treatments, they stuck that on there because that is like brand new, flawless. Maybe this is all perfectly intentional and they wanted to play with that perception shift that they can create by being like, oh wow, cool, old t-shirt, but wait, there's something that looks brand new, like bleached white, crystal clear off in the corner that matches it. How interesting. I think you could take it in a charitable way or an uncharitable way. How you feel about Paly overall will probably inform what you think about that. Something I do like, and I will always give them props for, is these treatments. Like they are doing what ERD used to do with all these holes, these little tears at the necks. There's a big one here down at the armpit. Like ERD doesn't do this for most of their pieces anymore. Even down here, like the hem is really coming apart. I prefer this. I like t-shirts thrashed in this style. And I think ERD has been, I don't know, a little bit just too lazy with the treatments of their t-shirts now. They're just like too clean. And I want more punk, more fuck you style, you know, give a middle finger to your customer, give them a ripped, run over, blood-stained t-shirt. I fuck with it. And finally, one last kind of like treatment manufacturing note that I really like is that they do use the like single scar stitch for the seams. Again, just like very authentic feeling. So this is the Tear Me Up jacket. Let's see what copy they give us on the tag here. And it's on the waterfront and it's about Brando. I think James Franco is a huge Brando fan. Like, you know, those old method actor type people, like I think that was big for him. And I think this one's in like a size range. I think it was listed as a small medium. All right, I'm excited to check this one out. Let's get it hung up. This thing is sick. I definitely want to see if the details hold up when you get in close. Now, the included retail tag is the same, but the neck tag is different for some reason. This has a woven tag as opposed to like an embroidered herringbone tag. And it's like a scribbly Paly up at the neck. Interesting. Now, the care tags are essentially the same, made in the USA. This one tagged a size medium. And same as the t-shirt, it's 100% cotton. The only difference here is this doesn't have an extra size tag underneath the care tags here. It's just this one. All right, that's enough tags. Let's look at the details of this piece. Like, just from a distance, aesthetically, fantastic. But let's see how they're doing things here. This is a heavily treated canvas like work jacket, bomber jacket, which we'll get into. But you can see this kind of like pinpointy, Oxfordy canvas type of material. I love that. And it looks like it's black, but like a heavily washed black where it's almost turning blue. And they've just like treated this thing within an inch of its life. Like you can see the collar has a very different consistency as the body. And I'm guessing that's just like a factor of the garment dyeing or the heavy treatment, but I think it's really cool. They've teased and torn in various places the canvas right up here, so it's almost like a distressed pair of jeans, and that's done really nice and tastefully, I think. And then we get the print. So we get the Tear Me Up print right at the front here, and that does look straight screen printed on, I'm guessing. So in all caps, Tear Me lowercase up. I like that, nice and striking across the front. And then you get this, again, striking visage right here, also printed. And finally, down in the bottom right, you get some kind of like classic Franco scribbly text. They do this a lot on the Paly stuff. God, give my life meaning, kind of scribbled over. It almost looks like prison walls or something, you know? And I dig that. And I think the back is even better. So embroidered at the back, just like an outline embroidery, very subtle. You get SUR apostrophe NDER. So when you pull back, surrender. But again, very quiet. You'd have to be looking for it to notice it. But once you notice it, you're like, oh, that's cool. You get the print of, I don't know, it looks like a woman to me, I think. That reads as a very ERD. Like, it's not like a rip-off, but just stylistically, that feels like something ERD would do. And then down in the bottom right, scribbly, cursive, I really don't know. Love at all. And you put it all together, it's a really nice aesthetic package. Now, much like this Seventh Veil t-shirt, there are two ways that you could interpret some of the details of this piece. So let me just lay them out and give you the charitable interpretation and the uncharitable one. So one of the first weird things I noticed was the zipper. Now, it's a nice zipper. I really like the choice they've gone with here, but you can see the texture of this. It's bumpy, like hills and valleys all of the way down. And I was wondering, you know, maybe that's just what it looks like zipped up. When you unzip it, those stay. That's just wavy, wavy, wavy. And on something like the Italian Romance jacket, I don't think you would see that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So what clearly happened here was they made this canvas jacket, they did all of it, they put the zipper in, and then they treated it. And when you're working with something to that degree, it's going to change the shape of the garment, change the sizing, it's going to shrink, maybe expand depending on what you're doing. And that changes how it's grabbing this zipper here where it's sewn in, and it's created this waviness. So you could say, well, that's an authentic thing that's going to happen as a piece like this is washed and worn naturally. So it's just naturally mimicking what will happen if you were to wear a brand new canvas jacket for 20, 30 years. Or you could say this is sloppiness that probably should have been worked out and gotten out of the way in the sample stage. It is up to you to be the judge. Now, another thing that struck me as interesting, maybe a bit odd, were the pockets. So it has side pockets. They actually look really nice. I like the way that they've done this. But I put my hands in and I was like, whoa, they're like too free. Why is that? And I looked inside and I saw that here's the fabric for the pocket. It's just free and flopping around in there. And that may not strike you as too odd, but it is irregular, I think. This right here is a jacket from Beauty Beast that I have. It's like kind of similar in shape and whatnot. And if we look to the inside of this one, if I open it up, here's the pocket right here. And it is sewn down in multiple places. So there is nowhere for this pocket to go. So you could say that's a weird oversight and it just makes it less clean and seem a little bit cheaper, right? But I also know Paly. I know how Kyle Lindgren, their co-founder, does things and designs things. I can all but guarantee you that he has a reference piece that he used for this, like a legit old canvas zip-up jacket that he was using to reference as a base here. And I would not be surprised at all if that jacket he was referencing also had a loose pocket. So in a way, you could say it's just very authentic to the period pieces that Paly is referencing here. And finally, you may have noticed an interesting thing happening on the inside here, because at the back, you've got this surrender embroidery, right? And when you look to the inside, there's a lot of paper here. And I think what this is it's like a guide for the embroidery to show where to go. And it is very, very rare that I see high-end pieces where this is left on. Usually, there's some kinds I think that wash away, others get cut away. Now, maybe that just doesn't matter. It's just not important. Like, why would they spend any effort getting rid of this? It's fine. Nobody can see it, right? And that's true. But when you look at Paly's contemporaries, I don't know if they would leave that in. So how you feel about that? You know, your mileage will vary. Now, I can say with authority, I think Paly is the most divisive brand I have ever covered on my channel. Now, whether that's because you think they are a bit too close to ERD with the design and style and aesthetic or whatnot, or if you think, I don't know, that they've gotten too big too fast due to their connections through James Franco and that feels inauthentic, or any number of reasons, there's a lot to criticize here. But on the flip side of that, they clearly know what they're doing. They know what their aesthetic is. They know what good materials are. They know how to reference vintage pieces well. And the prices are significantly lower than their competitors. And when you take a step back and look at both of these pieces sitting next to each other, I can't bring myself to be mad about them one bit because they look incredible. Okay, now that we've checked out those details, which is really interesting, some really cool stuff here, and I don't know how to feel yet. So we got to try them on, but we can't just try these on. We need an outfit to put around them. So let's see what we're going to wear. So I basically already have half of what I need for a fit. I love when I make my own life easy. So we've got our t-shirt, our outerwear. For pants, we're going to do some denim from Blind Date. And for shoes, I've got a pair from a brand called Rogue. We'll accessorize all that stuff. Of course, we're going to. Let's see what happens. All right, I'm so excited to try these on because I think Paly, both the treatment of the pieces and the fits are always really interesting. So I'm curious to see how these are. Let's start off with the Seventh Veil t-shirt in black. Now remember, this one is tagged a size small, and as you can see, Paly has made some bold choices with how their silhouettes are working here. And I remember this from previous t-shirts I've looked at from them. They like a wide and cropped cut. And that's a combination that is just really rare. And I appreciate that. They're taking a stand here with saying this is the fit that we want to put out. Because it's kind of weird. Like the cropped t-shirts are definitely in right now. That goes without saying. But usually it's more of like a vintage Americana, kind of slightly like skinny crop type thing. But this has the wide boxiness of a modern piece, like a Fear of God shirt or something. And then the crop of like a 70s Midwest vintage t-shirt. It's such an interesting mix, and I really think there are very few other brands out there doing cuts like this, so I appreciate that. It's got that kind of like wide, old school ERD type of neckline, which again, I really like. And the treatment, the natural like sun fading over the shoulders, they did such a good job at making it look legit, you know? Really cool cut, interesting graphic, interesting story behind it, and interesting treatment. I like the distressing, the sun fading, all of that. They've done a really good job here. And now let's move on to the pièce de résistance, the Tear Me Up canvas jacket. And this one, I think aesthetically is crushing it. Like the entire vibe of this fits in so well. It has that obviously ERD canvas jacket kind of vibe, but it also has like a workman-like thing. Once you put it on, you can see, again, this is a cropped fit. The sleeves are wide, the body's wide, but it comes up cropped. And it reminds me of these old, like, post-war laborers. Like, that's the kind of look. I mean, On the Water from Brando, it checks out, right? Like, they are nailing their references here. Everywhere they're distressing it makes sense. Everywhere they've treated it makes sense. But you know what I guess this feels like in the end? This feels like those smaller brands that you find just like scrolling your For You page, discovery on Instagram or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's cool. You check it out, you grab it, and you get the piece, and it feels like it was something that was made by one person. And it has all of the quirks, but also the immutable and interesting characteristics of a handmade piece. So I don't know, when you are printing stuff at scale, and it does seem like Paly is primed to go huge here. Like, I'm thinking kind of like back in the day, you had this streetwear explosion of like Off-White and Heron Preston and Palm Angels and stuff. And I feel like Paly is going to slot into that similar level of maybe being the luxury punk streetwear brand of choice. And there are like worse places to be. I don't mean that to be demeaning. I do think Enfant Riche de Premier are too expensive, too exclusive. Too many people have been priced out of the ERD market so that even people who understand the weird cult references and ethos of the Enfant Riche de Premier brand are unable to get that stuff because so many rich fuckboys are now buying up all this stock and driving up all the prices. So the fact that there is a cheaper ERD alternative entering the market and doing things with an interesting aesthetic and a cool point of view, cool references, stuff to actually dig your teeth into, I think that's more positive than negative. All right, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Take a look at the other video on screen here. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, do all these YouTube things that help me in the algorithm. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.